I made a video on Thursday. I uploaded it more or less about 16 hours before Pokémon Legends Arceus release unlocked here in Australia. In that video, which was a commentary on and response to pre-release reviews published by 8 large outlets, and specifically in response to a mention of the quality of the graphics, I said a thing I am very wrong about. This video, like that one, will be largely spoiler-free, so in the captured gameplay I've just mainly been wandering around. You'll see no spoilers for story or characters or dialogue, so if you think the game looks a little empty or something, or you're about to accuse it of being boring or something, just keep that in mind. I'm deliberately avoiding a lot of bits of the game so I don't spoil it for somebody out there just wanting to know some stuff. I'm also deliberately still only in the very first map area that unlocks. But in that video, about a day and a half ago now, I put forth a piece of my own commentary, something I've been saying about Pokemon games for the better part of a decade now. And while I stand by that statement, at least historically, in this video, I wish to apologize to my viewers. Game Freak has now made that statement, that defense, an absolute joke. And I am sorry about that. I was wrong. Really wrong. Sadly, embarrassingly, unfortunately, and utterly, ridiculously wrong. Pokemon Legends Arceus is very much like having a nice 12-year-old single malt whiskey served to me in a 12-year-old rotting fisherman's shoe encrusted with every last year of that fisherman's last decade. The whiskey is undoubtedly good, demonstrably good, officially good. It may even be an award-winning whiskey, but it's really quite difficult to appreciate the smooth, peaty density of it when served in a 12-year-old fisherman's shoe. Hello again, I am Blunty. Sub, bell, comment, slam your face against the unfeeling robot mind that controls your YouTube experience, and curse the binary encoded math that has doomed us all by tapping on that little picture of a thumb just underneath the video, right there. So, what was the statement I wish to apologize for? What did I say that now in retrospect, after I have actually played the video game in question, that I am ashamed to have gone to bat for? Now, after I've spent 6 hours streaming it yesterday, progressing through it, and another 6 hours off-stream just pottering around and playing about, leveling up some Pokemon, catching some new ones, playing with the mechanics, collecting piles of materials, filling out Pokedex tasks, and frankly, in general, having 12 straight hours of a pretty damn good time with all the new twists on a quarter-century-old recipe of Pokemon games. After 12 hours straight of thinking, man, I am loving this. This is exciting. This is fun. This is fresh and wonderful. I hope all future Pokemon games start pulling from this mechanical setup. It's familiar but fresh, challenging in ways that feel engaging after years and years of the difficulty of Pokemon games being dumbed down to such an insulting, childish level. We are finally having an answer to please make it a bit more difficult and challenging quicker. After 12 hours of just playing the game, what went so wrong that I actually feel the need to make a video withdrawing part of what I said about it? Something so rare for me, I can't even remember the last time I ever had to do something like this. Because frankly, I am not this wrong very often. In that video, in defense of the graphics, something literally every Pokemon game ever published has been criticized on, and despite all that has become the most profitable IP on the planet with 25 years of games and strong ongoing demand in the fandom, I said something I've said for years to people whining about the less than cutting-edge graphics in these games, something that has remained true for all of those years, and I will happily and strongly stand by the words I have said. Pokemon doesn't sell on its graphics. No one who loves Pokemon games loves them because of their aesthetic beauty. We play because they're fun. They're charming, engaging games with large, active communities. Some of those communities are even not toxic hate piles of bitter basement-dwelling shit goblins. I said correctly that no Pokemon game in any generation, on every hardware platform it's ever been on, in any year it's ever been published in, has ever, not even once, been considered one of the better-looking games of its respective generation. Ever since the very first Pokemon games, they've always been a bit dated in their graphical presentation. And while it's a shame that a property as globally massive and influential as this one doesn't have a bit more skill and care and love and attention given to its presentation, it's fine because of the engaging gameplay loops, or at least the charm. It was there to make up for it. And I, in that last video, and for many years prior, have always said that people who argue about how pretty a Pokemon game is, or deride it for its lack of being pretty, are just foolish twats who don't really get the game. They're being petty and nitpicky for the sake of being petty and nitpicky because negative takes get more attention online than praise does, especially in video game cultures. Maybe they were even being contrarian just for the sake of being contrarian because Pokemon is so popular and people love to hate on popular things. Whatever the reasoning was, it doesn't really matter. They were wrong about it. And while I've already mentioned, this game is, in my opinion, a large and significant step forward in the context of gameplay and mechanics, breathing new life into old systems without completely overwriting what was already good about the games. They fixed it without breaking what didn't need to be fixed, if you will. What so far seems a wonderfully held balance between comparatively daring choices and staying true to what people already love about this series. Its graphical presentation is, however, so catastrophically bad, it's literally detrimental to that fun gameplay. It is so eye-stabbingly shitty, it's a genuine and near constant distraction from the gameplay. Quote-unquote bad or dated graphics aren't a problem for me. I can happily live with low-quality textures, I can easily cope with low-polygon models and environments as long as the gameplay is there. It's all good, or at the very least, tolerable. Minecraft is my go-to example for this. Minecraft is not the world's best-selling individual game because it is pretty. It's because it's fun. It looks like garbage. And Monster Hunter Rise barely runs above 720p even in docked mode on Switch, but the gameplay is so good I've personally dug out over 600 hours on a single save file, and the game isn't even a year old yet, and I've just started playing it all over again on the PC release. The problem with Pokémon Legends Arceus isn't that it looks dated. So dated, it's not completely unfair to say it looks like it could have been made for an older system like the Wii U or frankly even the GameCube. On its own merits, I like the visual style. I like the general feel of things. I like the village. I like the characters. There's a lot of personality here. I like the Pokemon models. I could have tolerated the low poly maps and muddy, flat textures and bare bones foliage and the like, except... See, the problem is, as I'm sure you've been noticing as I drew ever closer to making these specific complaints, the game engine is so horrifically badly made that there is a constant series of visual distractions. Graphical artifacting. The shadows, even on the player character, are atrociously bad and flickery constantly. There's aliasing everywhere. But that is the absolute least of the issues. The worst crap is the horrifically short draw distances. So in an open field game where you really need the draw distances to be better than this, the constant pop-in at mid-distance levels of foliage and models is extremely and constantly distracting. The level of detail janky pop-in is even worse, with geology and shadows and trees suddenly jarringly changing shape and texture, and even color sometimes, only a few dozen meters from the character as you run through the environments. Whole NPCs exploding into existence as you round a corner in town. You get the point. You see what I see, don't you? Game Freak have been tremendously lazy or clownishly incompetent in the execution of this stuff. They really should have abandoned their in-house game engine by now. It has clearly reached the end of its useful life. They should have put it aside, said thanks for your service, and moved on to something new. Reached for something else, either a new in-house engine, if they're so dedicated to that, or something more industry standard like the Unreal Engine or whatever. It is screamingly obvious that this crap is not up to standard. And it's not just the rendering, but the frame pacing too. I'd actually be okay with the game looking like it does if the draw distance wasn't so horrible and the frame pacing wasn't so bad. I'd be shocked if, when the likes of Digital Foundry do their usual methodical testing, to find that this game doesn't have tremendously irregular frame pacing because it feels really jarring, especially when turning the camera. Even by Nintendo Switch standards, this is just abusively bad. Too abusively bad for a full-priced retail game, especially one from the world's most profitable intellectual property. You cannot tell me they don't have the money to spend on making this thing work better. They chose not to. It is offensive that they think this is good enough, because it's not. I'm still right when I say graphics are not and have never been the selling point of Pokémon. But this isn't about the graphics. This is how they're executed. When they're executed this badly, this clumsily, and with this level of technical ineptitude, instead of being a side note of saying, well, this is a pretty ugly game, but holy shit, is it fun, they become an active detriment to the experience. The issues are not with how it looks in isolation. Not even the basic bitch texture tiling in the environmental stuff. I, personally, can deal with that. The issue is all about the active rendering being so poor, so clumsy, so bad, it is a genuine and constant distraction. I've played 12 hours straight, hoping that sooner or later it'll just dissolve for me. I'll just kind of take it for granted, maybe. I'll just stop seeing it. I'll get used to it, that all these graphical issues will fade into the background of what is genuinely some of the most fun mechanical stuff I've had in a Pokemon game in many, many, many years. I keep hoping that, much like with the resolution limitations of Monster Hunter Rise, that the game is so good I'll just be absorbed so deeply I stop even noticing the limits unless I go looking for them. But Pokémon Legends Arceus is so bad in that department, I've not managed it yet. And I fear at this point I never will. The game, outside of these graphical issues, is genuinely good. But I am, literally at every turn, and I mean every time I turn the camera or move forward or anything, pulled right out of any attempt at absorption, at immersion, by the screamingly obvious and heart-breakingly, distractingly shitty execution of rendering the game on the screen. Graphics do not matter until they're so poorly presented it becomes a constant obstruction, a hindrance, a visual intrusion into one's ability to allow the game to immerse you in its world. However low poly or muddy texture the actual image is, if it vomits itself onto the screen in such a jarring way, there is no way to excuse it, there is no way around it, it is just not good enough. So here, in this game, graphics matter. And it's honestly immensely disappointing and a huge negative for this game that must be called out, in my opinion. So much so, I've made this entire video about this one issue. My hope is that at this point, the Pokemon Company and Nintendo choose someone else to helm the core Pokemon games from now on, because Game Freak are not up to the task. They've demonstrated that. They've had a few goes at making games for the Switch now, and they're getting worse at it, not better. It is time for someone new. All that said, again, mechanically, I am indeed loving the new stuff. I just wish I could pay attention to it better. Because right now, like I said in the opening, this is very much like having a really nice whiskey served to me in a rotting, decrepit, fetid old fisherman's shoe. The whiskey is undoubtedly good, but it's so hard to enjoy it on its own merits when it's served like this. Thank you for watching. Thank you as usual to the patrons scrolling up above there. Their above and beyond support is immensely valuable to me and I really appreciate it. And for the rest of you, thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you're enjoying the game as much as I am despite all the visual distractions, and maybe I'll even see you on stream again today. I'm Blunty, thanks for watching, catch you next time.